I'm here of my some kind of association with Banjara. Another thing, when he first told me that this is poetry and you have to speak, etc., etc. So I was quite expecting a lot of, I'm a painter also. So anything which I read, I also see. And I see as a palette. If a particular poet is writing something, what palette he is using? Because this is a collection. And that palette tells us as a painter and as a visual artist something else, which generally many times the typical literary critics do not understand. A dimension of it he mentioned, Lacanian language, he said, but it is beyond Lacanian language. So I was looking at the palette also. Banjara, all of us, we are familiar with Banjaras. We know how interestingly they are dressed. It's like a riot of colors on them. It's not just one color. Palette is like you get dazzled, hypnotized, mesmerized by the colors itself. Interestingly, I was in Romania for a long time recently for my art residency, and a lot of Romanian friends I have, again gypsies. So, and they were telling me, they were telling some of the words of the Deul, for example. Temple they call Deul, then in Romania. Pani Aap. Even Yadi, name of your poem.
Yeah.
Mother there also.
Yeah.
So very interesting. This kind of linguistic and in Romania, long. So again I say some connection I have that I am meeting some people again and again at various times. So this I was expecting की या कवितेमधले रंग तर मला पुढे असे आले पाहिजे असणार काहीतरी. नंतर ते आपलं करडं, पायता, चुडी, आटी चोटला, पेट्या, काचळी हे सगळं दिसेल. Because this, again, I have very tremendous interest in jewelry also. Both of us, me and Vaishali, we design jewelry also. And this jewelry of Banjara jewelry is something fantastic. And every time we have decided that we should acquire a little bit of it, this silver jewelry. And interestingly, their silver is not glittering silver; it's oxidized silver. And so one of my friends has given me some little bit of some examples of some antique Banjara jewelry also for my collection. So I thought something like that also will come. But I was disappointed. I did not see these colors. Instead, he employs a palette which is a grey palette. It's a very difficult palette, I must tell you, as a painter, I must tell you. Difficult palette. There's on one side there is a black, which he talked about. Another side is white, but the grey palette comes in between. Since he mentioned Lacanian language, there was a Lacanian question to Wittgenstein's color proposition, which I remember when you were talking about it. Because I was thinking about this palette and we were talking about Lacanian language things. So Lacan asked this question that whether, have you seen iridescent black? चकाकणारा, दखलकणारा काळा असू शकतो का? असा प्रश्न. त्याची पॅलेट जी आहे ती मधल्या करड्या रंगाची पॅलेट. So automatically the pain or a sorrow or some kind of internal cry automatically starts whistling down when you are reading poem one after another, waiting in between, taking a pause to understand the meaning of the space between the lines. So this is a difficult palette indeed, and he has definitely used it wonderfully. Already both the speakers, Mr. Poet and Ashwini Kumar, has spoken about this Raisina Hills. I was also told about it. Both of them did not take the name Lakhi Shah Banjara. So Lakhi Shah Banjara, he donated his land. The land was donated. It was full of water flows, streams, and variety of things. He donated the land for him. This community is a very interesting community, Banjara community, though he has written a few poems on some other nomadic tribes. But mainly, the lens is Banjara lens, even looking at that. And Maharashtra itself, he says 48 notified tribes. All over India, I don't know how many.
More than 2,000.
More than 2,000. Each one has got his own identity, his own existence, own history, own culture, own language. It's very difficult to go into that. So I wanted to so this community is very interesting community. So basically, the pain I think came later, right? Recent 150, 200 years. Prior to that, more than the pain, a lot of other things were happening. Because this community is Baniya community, Wani community. आणि वाण्यांची गंमत वेगळी असते. वाणी सगळ्यांशी जुळवून घेणाऱ्या असतात. दोन बनी आता आपण आता पाहतोच आहोत, म्हणजे डिफिकल्ट ऑल्सो. सो बट दिस इज डिफरंट वाणी. हा तुकाराम वाण्याशी संबंध असलेला वाणी आहे. बिकॉज वेन गुरु तेग बहादूर, when he was killed by Mughals, it was difficult for his followers. How do we do the final rites of the Guru? So it was Lakhi Shah Banjara who gave his house. Teg Bahadur was kept there, and the entire house was given to the flames. So this is a different Vani, different kind of which kept on selling things from one place to other places. Now, as Mr. Ashwini Kumar, my friend, read out a small write-up which he wrote, I also come prepared. Don't worry, this was the beginning. The way you said, I said I should also start same way. Sometimes, imitation is a good thing. So I imitated. So before going into that, one more thing which I want to say. That this understanding this community in variety of ways, I mean, not only just the pain, but why they are not like Vanis which we are experiencing today. I want to give you one example. And then I get again back to your poetry. One of the Vidarbha houses I was invited, one of the Banjara house I was shown. And when I entered the house, there was a small this thing outside. And there were some photographs there. One of the prominent photographs was the grandfather of that my friend. Next to that photograph, there was another photograph That photograph was of a bull. So I asked him, who is this person? He said, he's my grandfather. I said, then who is this? Why the bull next to your grandfather? He said, his name is Narya. त्या बैलाचं नाव म्हणाला नार्या. म्हटलं who is he? तो म्हटला he is also grandfather. Because he said he was fantastic. He was so kind. He used to play with children in the house. He used to play with the children around the house. He used to cry. He used to be part of the whole thing. And then he told me one very important thing. He said, for us, like many of the, those great Hindutvaadis also and Nauvadis also, these Gorakshas, etc., when the bull or a cow becomes old, most of the time it is either given away to the slaughterhouse or it just left out. Whatever the nasib, yahan jayegi, maregi. He said, in our entire Banjara community, we don't do that. Even it becomes skeleton, we are with him or her. We take care of her. And not just by this song which you mentioned about this. He has come from all this, the love for the. It's not just Wordsworthian nature. And it's not the Pasaidanic Sarvasamabhava. It is just much beyond that. I think either you or somebody should read that poem, which is in this prayer. At the beginning we started with the prayer. I think we should end. We should do this reading of his prayer. In the beginning we had a different kind of a prayer which is being done here. But we all must understand and learn the prayer which he has written. And some of the words in Gormati you should talk, you should say. Now I turn on to my written small 3 paragraphs. But before that, one more thing. I keep forgetting these things. This poetry also has got very interesting, if you read one line, what lens is there? So in Sevalalji's words, which is written everywhere, most of the houses have seen this. Janajo, Chanajo, Vajar Chamanijo. So that this poetry has this exactly, he has seen it, he has understood it, he has looked at it, and then the whole process, experience of the process, which he keeps telling that it is not imagination. There is no magical realism. I read there is no magical realism. The poet himself says there is no imagination. This is all I have done from my own experience. This is what I would now read out a small passage written basically looking and trying to position the whole work. Hope I'm not taking much time. Is there disturbance? Can we do it afterwards? Hello?
रोक दीजिए.
Can we do this afterwards so that we can speak?
भाई
These days go to discuss poetry, reading, etc. One question always comes to my mind. Why should we discuss poetry? Does it matter how many people read poetry? Does it matter anyway? The answer is really negative. Poetry doesn't matter much, but still we discuss poetry. Then writing poetry, if you look at it around you, thousands of poetry books are published every day. I mean, in a year's time. Thousands of them. If we say worldwide, millions of poetry published, books. There are so many magazines, so many journals. One of the representative poetry issue which used to come from USL, when it closed down in 2019, it had 672 pages. You can imagine the amount of poetry being published. Who will read this? Even somebody wants to read this poetry, is one line with nahi hoga. Even the reading contemporary poetry, forget earlier poetry. Very difficult. Even then, why do we, I mean, does it matter? In fact, now a book has come by Bain Learning, one of the poet, Bain Lerner. The title of the book is Hatred for Poetry. Still why do we read? And why it matters? That's an important question, which also gets answered when we read such kind of poetry, which basically provides you different kind of lens to look at the things around you. And there's one more cause, which I am going to come to. Now I read small write-up which I have scribbled down. So, first thing, as Ashwini Kumar also said, this is not just celebration of one book. We are here because to celebrate or to witness a kind of testament of resilience, a chronicle of people, and a profound act of literary witness. Meera Rathod's Bless Us All is far more than a collective or collection of poems. It is rather something like soul of Banjara community speaking to us in pain, in prayer, and in powerful defiance also. He does sometimes in these poems, not always, but sometimes something extraordinary. And one is not expected to do extraordinary all the time. So sometimes he does. When he translates the specific agonies and joys of a nomadic, denotified tribe into universal language of human longing. And then we start feeling the weight of history. He writes, before we were born, they write on mother's embryo, a thief, a criminal, an adulterator, and a trader in flesh. The same poem which Ashwini Kumar also referred to settlement inside and outside. It is a poetry that articulates the sting of systematic humiliation and yet witnesses the unbreakable spirit that prays not for revenge but for the well-being of all living beings, even the smallest ant, which prayer which we will sing again at the end of the program. This act of giving voice to a marginalized community places us all in a vital and global tradition of resistance literature, which again he also acknowledged. We stand shoulder to shoulder with powerful voices from across India, as well as I want to mention some of the voices from the outside India also. Namdev Rasala, of course, you cannot, you have to mention this Mahakavi, Namdev Rasala, who gave voice to, who gave voice to all of us actually. Not only Dalit, not only utilized things, not only untouchables, but everyone who is sensitive, for every such person he gave voice. So one of the, when I quoted his line before, we are born, they write in the mother's memory, womb. I mean, always I like to see the archetypal as well as the earlier connections and on whose shoulders we all are standing. You know, that's how Nandevas have come. All of us will stand on the shoulders, but more people like you, words like you. So he had written sometimes back, I remember this poem, very strong poem. I am a veneral soul in the private part of language. That kind of language, that kind of image. There is no comparisons here. Whenever I take names, does not mean that I am comparing him with Namdev or Namdev with him. But just to try to understand, keep our lens clarity. So, like Dasal and many others, Rathod uses poetry as a weapon to expose festering social home. It resonates, again, I want to mention here this resonation, and this again very important universal voice, Maya Angelou, iconic African poet. And her iconic poem, Still Rise, is an anthem of resilience that echoes again Rathod's refusal to be broken. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I will rise. And of course, this conversation extends far beyond Rathod's poetry, enters powerful dialogue with the voices of, some of the people which we have stopped mentioning in our public and social and political platforms, the Palestinians. And one must mention, and therefore I want to mention where I found some kind of connection also. I was trying to find this connection because I knew that there should be connection. So Muhammad Darwish, and I want to quote here a very important, also well-known poem. For Darwish, poetry was the homeland for the stateless people. Please listen to this carefully. For Darwish, poetry was a homeland for stateless people, people who do not have space and therefore do not have identity. Automatically, it just applies, and I will read out all the lines. Rathod's verses, one of the first such voice, become a moving homeland for the marginalized nomadic tribal caravans and the voices of those caravans. It becomes a homeland. Darwish writes, where should we go after the last frontiers? Where should the birds fly after the last sky? This echoes a perpetual motion, which caravanic motion he talked. He said that he's not going to mention monk or a son or somebody alone traveling. You are me. No, it's Karo, Kanda. Another poet I would like to mention here, Nigerian Wole Soyinka, the first African Nobel laureate. He writes, the man dies in all who keep silent in the face of tyranny. This sentiment is a rather, in fact, very engine of Rathod's critique of social system here. Where he says, again Ashwini Kumar also mentioned the same word, the critique of the system as a concubine of power, which also I feel very important imagery also and the way he looks at it. And then our last again, this It's very interesting. Why people move? There's one interesting poem. No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You have to understand this. You have to understand this. That no one puts their children in a boat unless the water is safer than the land. Why does one travel continuously? Why does one keep moving from one place to another place? Why does one doesn't have address? Why doesn't one doesn't have a home, location, identity? These are the very important questions. These are very important questions which are raised again and again in this Then the poems become the voice of existence itself. And these questions are not answered. The poems becomes the voice of existence, and that's what important thing he has achieved. I'm ending my speech here, but before that, I want you to listen to something which you have listened number of times. But to understand what
100%.
why Banjara is not a religion, caste or creed, and why Banjara is a kind of idea of life. I specifically put this on, and reason is this: the singer, Reshma. She born in Rajasthan, in Banjara community, goes where? Pakistan, stays where? In one of those shrine of Sufi shrine. Sings what? Sufi song. This is what is the Banjara thing. This Reshma was again interesting thing. Banjara Reshma was honored in Pakistan, got one of the highest Pakistani award. One of the some Nishani something, I don't remember the correct name, but she was given that award. She is not Muslim. She is not Hindu. This is like something, and that is how this prayer comes, because this is the prayer. This is a Sufi prayer. I always had this in my mind, that this entire lens, what you have in your poetry, or what I was told from Sudhakar Naik to my recent friend, it's a Sufi lens. And the Sufi lens tells you to love everybody. Especially in the kind of world which we're living today in our own country, and the kind of world we are living around us, maybe Palestine, maybe somewhere else, maybe in Africa, whatever. This Sufi thing, Sufi song, Sufi love, Sufi philosophy, Sufi words, and the rhythm, that is what we should, this poetry gives. This rhythm of Caravan definitely resonates on all your poetry. And that's what it is. Thank you very much.